There you go.
All right. All right. Well, hi. As I said, I'm really excited to be here and to meet all of you. Beautiful faces, beautiful people. This is very cool. So I'm going to pass something around which we'll use as a reference. Some of you may want to take notes. A lot of times after I speak or work with somebody, they go, oh, wish I had written that down
I actually
or
do
something
that all
like
the time.
that.
I do.
So it's just a thought. Tina Lerner, I think that was said, and I've been doing this work for 35 years. So specifically some sports people, I was an athlete myself, so I get that mode that we need to get into. So we've all heard we have a mind-body connection. That's like common knowledge now. My mind and my body are connected. But sometimes a concept, so we get a concept, mind and body are connected, but we don't take it to, well, so what would that mean? How would I work with that? It's just an idea. Mind and body are connected. So it can be that our mind is anxious or our body is anxious, but they're going to play off each other. Whatever we're picturing, whatever we're thinking about, whatever we're distracted with in our minds, our bodies are going to feel it. So what athletes have found is if they use their imaginal mind, they imagine an outcome they want. In fact, there's been all this research with Olympians that if they imagine the outcome they want, they find themselves performing it. So imagining is using the mind. Feeling it, what would that feel like? And that's like the new area of awareness. We can't just think our way, we have to feel it. So I work with golf professionals also, and they realize it's the emotional content that is important as their mental game. So they have a mental game, but if they're not in a sense of an emotional place of calm, their body knows how to play. They've been playing since they're 2 or whatever, but they don't have that sense in their body of relaxation. So a lot of what I monitor in biofeedback is the heart, because the heart is very expressive. It's a mainframe. We feel pulse in all areas of our body. We can pick up pulse on the toe, the earlobe, everywhere. So when we recognize our heart is affected by our emotion and our thoughts, we get to realize, well, I want to be working all circuits if I want an outcome that I want. If I want to enjoy my riding today, I not only think positive things, but I feel it. So I have a sense of, how would that feel in my body? What would the experience feel like? And the more and the longer we do that, the more we're creating neurons in our brain. So our brains are kind of like a pinball machine. You know, we've all had that where we load the pinball machine and we're picturing it going over here, but it goes over here. Now we go, okay, we'll get it this time. And we do it again, and it goes over here. This is like neurons in the brain. They fire most consistently the ones we use all the time. So they're called myelinated neurons. They're the ones, they're our default. So if we have a default to be nervous when we pull into this gate or when we walk up to our horse, that pinball, that neuron is what's going to be firing, setting off all the processes in our body that we recognize as fear or concern or worry, and then the pictures that fit that fight or flight response start to be the ones we're hanging out in. We start thinking of what could happen that we don't want to have happen, what we're most afraid of. And because our brains have a natural negative fear-based bias, because that's survival, we're awash in that experience. So there's a gentleman, Dr. Joe Dispenza, you have got his book, but he recommends picturing before you even get out of bed in the morning, your whole day, everything that you're gonna do. And don't get out of bed until you have a positive feeling about it all. So just replay, hope I don't lose my voice. But to keep going back to, how do I want to experience this day? How do I want it to feel? What do I want my reaction to be if I have a reaction? So let's say I get stressed about something or worried. How do I want to be with that? Do I want the ball to go down the neuron of fear because I've had a concern or a worry? Or do I want to create new neurons, which neuroplasticity we've learned. We used to think our brains were formed when we were 10, and then they said 12, then they said 20. Now they realize we can create new neurons, new experiences of ourself and others in our brain. We write the circuitry. But just like anything, you have to repeat it to get it to be where the pinball goes. So recognizing that, that's what you start to practice, the outcomes that you want to experience. You start feeling it, you start thinking it, you start knowing that's going to be your experience. And even, let's just say it's Pollyannic, and we get caught off guard, or something happens that sets us off, or sets our horse off. If we're in a more relaxed mode, we're more capable of dealing with it. If we're already in an anxious mode, our reactions are blown up, they're bigger than they need to be, and we aren't as capable of returning to neutral or a sense of well-being. What I love about all of this work is that it influences every area of our life. We're talking about specifically horses. I was a world-class tandem surfer. So in that world of sports, I needed to relax, picture outcomes that I wanted to have with my partner. And there was a whole lot of that. You can watch Olympian swimmers. I like them because they're out there. And they have their little headsets, and they're listening to positive affirmations, and they know that that's going to influence the way they swim. They notice that that's going to influence how they feel. So it lines up that we do our best performance when we're most relaxed. They learned that with the Air Force and Air Force pilots. The more, a moment, I'll take a drink. Air Force pilots too, really? They found that the more relaxed they were, like they started weeding out the ones that get really hyper excited, they burn out. Or they're not using their frontal lobe. They're not using the front of their brain, which is the more rational, executive center of our brain. This was the last developed, the frontal lobe. The amygdala is the fear part of our brain. Get that activated, it has a lot of circuitry that says you're in danger. So then you start looking for what you're in danger. Now that happens if we're worrying about something. So we're worrying, we may feel it physically, and it may be about what we're going to do in the day with the horses, or it may be just we're carrying stuff over. And so we go into coming here perhaps, and we got our worries and concerns and things that are bothering us. They're influencing how we're feeling physiologically. And it would be really a good idea to have a practice of where, okay, I enter this gate, I sit in my car, kind of the Joe Dispenza thing. I don't get out of the car until I'm relaxed and have a positive feeling about the experience I'm going to have today for multiple reasons. One, for our bodies not being stressed, which is aging. None of us want that. But the other part is, wow, when we relax the stress response, we give potential to see the joy response, to see the fun, to see the good. Because if we're in stress response, all we're doing is looking for danger. We're not really available to say, wow, this is so beautiful, and I'm relaxed and calm. So the Air Force guys, they noticed that the ones that were centered under stress, that their nervous system their heart rates weren't just beating out of their chest, that they were the ones that thought more clearly under the distress. A voice heard from. They know that. When speaking of the horses, they are so much in response to where you're at. And I'm sure that, you've heard that before. So there again, sitting in your car and getting yourself relaxed and in a place of love and joy and ease. I'm here now, whatever is going on in my life, whatever I'm worried about, right now I'm going to take this time to be here, right now, in this seat, in this time, and appreciate where I'm at. So that's just opening up a whole different set of circuitry. We're getting off the amygdala, the fear-based perspective, to this sense of, wow, it feels good. And we're flooding our bodies with hormones and a sense of well-being, which is healing. So the recognizing that we're the one deciding so often our experience in our life. It's not so much what's going on, it's how we are with it. And that is a freedom when we recognize that how I am with what is happening, even if we have experience something out there with your horse, that you want to remain calm because your horse is going to notice. And if they notice, then they go into a danger response. I mean, I'll try to get this YouTube that I've seen of where they actually monitored the horse's heart rhythm and a person's heart rhythm, and they watched how they came into sync, which, that is so cool to recognize. They have this same mainframe that's picking up on your mainframe. So another reason to be in a place of, I'm happy, I'm in love, this is good, no matter what's going on in the rest of our lives, to miss these moments. Because overthinking, overstressing about our lives, that it doesn't do any good. It's not like worrying affects us in a positive way. In fact, I love the statement, worrying is thinking about what you don't want to have happen. And if we think about it, and one of my other favorite statements is, only a fool doesn't win in his own fantasies. So, we're making it up. How's it going to go today? Oh man, this is going to be really bad. I'm going to have a rough time, whatever it is. So we're creating a future fantasy that we're afraid of, as opposed to where we win. We have a positive experience. And setting that tone ideally becomes a habit. What am I worried about? What am I anticipating? Let me see gratitude. So the other thing we've learned about our brains when I speak of gratitude is our brains don't know, stop that. Our brains don't know, don't think about that. Because the neurons are firing, they're going. So what they found to be more effective is, think about this. Think about a positive. Bring yourself to something that feels good. Bring yourself to a picture, a feeling that feels good, as opposed to say, oh, I shouldn't be worrying about that. Oh, I shouldn't be thinking about that. but instead say, oh, wow, look at this opportunity. Or sometimes one of my favorite things to do is to lay in bed in the morning and just breathe and feel the peace in my body. Like, wow, this is amazing feeling to just settle into these great covers and soft lighting and feel the morning coming and just being. So practicing being starts to give you a parking zone, another default section in our brain where our brain starts to recognize, oh, we're going to go do this instead of the habit of worrying. We're going to turn it to a place of appreciation. So make that our knee-jerk response to our stresses, as opposed to enumerating, just going on and on, ruminating about what we don't want to have happen and living in all these fearful circumstances. But instead, to really picture, how do I want to feel right now? That's the option. I have choice in this. And if I use my intelligence, I'll use it to my advantage, which all of us in our life and athletes, etc., doing what you're doing, which I think is amazing, is really enjoy the upside of it, so that you're in that place with your horse is feeling you, they're actually matching you, which, as I said, I hope I can get this video and you can send it on to everybody. But it's astounding how this woman, when she'd be agitated, her horse started to match her agitation, right down to the physiology of the heart rhythm. I mean, we are all so connected. Once we get that, we're connected with each other, we're connected with nature and the beauty of a place. But if we're in our brains worrying about stuff, we miss it. We're in what we're picturing in our brain, not what's right in front of us, or the opportunity in front of us. So I mentioned the negative bias. So this has been, maybe the last 10 years about brain research. And they discovered that we have a natural negative bias, meaning we're going to look for danger first, and then when we have discovered all possibilities that we're not going to be eaten, we then maybe have an opportunity to feel good. But if we go into, because we don't get eaten in our world, at least we hope not, that we instead worry about other things that are possible. This could happen, that could happen. So we start seeing the glass as half empty. Life is frightening, there's all these bad things that are happening. Then we globalize it. Oh my gosh, the world's gonna implode. We got this going on and that going on, and we're living in this soup of negative, fear-based experience, which is stressful, hard on the body. It doesn't lead to a positive outcome on any level. So if we're wise, we recognize what we're doing and say, okay, let me just step back here. And some people really work well with thinking of something positive. Some people do well with breathing. That's my go-to. I orient my awareness to quieting my breath, because your breath is everywhere. You can take it with you. You can get involved with it, invested in it. You can think with breath of love, appreciating, whatever's going on. We have this opportunity to work specifically with, this is the moment I'm in. Like, how many of you today have thought about your right pinky or your right baby toe? Or we've been everywhere but where we are. And it's so easy to be other than where we are, which influences how we feel. So the more, there's this mindfulness thing. So I brought an article about it because I think it's really well done. I don't know, some of you may have seen it. I don't know, but I can ask you to here, let's just, whoever, grab one. And there's all kinds of good stuff like this out there on the internet, etc. Much of it has a tremendous amount of value, but what I find is we're a world where we're caught in ideas. We have ideas, we're presented with ideas, we're presented with thoughts, we're presented with things. So ideas can be really exciting, awareness can be exciting, like I know I got this negative bias, and I know I need to, whatever. But knowing stuff isn't transformative unless you do something with it. An idea that we recognize is really great is like watching somebody at a gym and saying, wow, I want those biceps, but never going to the gym. How great it would be, but never doing anything about it. And that's part of the opportunity of this work with yourselves, is to say, all right, how will I set this up for myself? How will I do a morning meditation or a evening relaxation and do a release of the day so I drop into sleep, not from fatigue, but from a sense of well-being. I see a lot of people over the last 35 years, and I always ask, so when you go to bed, are you going to bed, do you fall, I fall right asleep, right out. So are you falling asleep because you're fatigued? Yeah, I'm like spent. I have no energy. So what's going on potentially there is your relationship with relaxing is you have no more juice. You've taken it to the bottom. Then you're able to stop, versus having a place inside of yourself where you have a sense of well-being. You go to bed because it's the time that works for your schedule in terms of getting a good night's sleep. And when you go to bed, you feel content. You feel good, versus I just worried all day, I spent the day stressing out, I've done all kinds of activities. How about just pacing yourself through the course of the day so that you have downtime? So one of the things they noticed with heart rhythm is as you take an in-breath, your pulse goes faster. As you exhale, your pulse slows down. So that creates a sine wave if you're monitoring it. This sine wave of watching the heart rhythm over time. As you breathe in, it goes faster. As you exhale, it slows down. But what often we see, and I see, is that people have that in-breath because brings up energy, but they don't have an out-breath. Hi. Want to come up? Would you like to take over? Yeah. Speak up now. Speak up. You have cute feet. Yeah, I love the eyes. So, recognizing that, and they recognize for a lot of cardiovascular issues that people don't have that out-breath. They have an in-breath because it naturally innervates them, but they don't have where they relax. The other opportunity or challenge in this is that we can't make ourselves relax. That's just very difficult because we think we can Whatever we want to do, we can make it happen. I talk to people and they say, I'm going to control my heart rhythm. I'm going to make it happen the way I want it to happen. But it doesn't work that way. When it comes to our bodies relaxing, we have to allow it. That's the word. I allow it. I can't make it happen. And as soon as we allow it, really get into a stance of letting our bodies relax, it's a whole different place. So with that exhale being long, relaxed, and allow yourself to drop deeply into a place of quiet. So it opens up that parasympathetic branch, which is the opposite of fight or flight. It is rest, restore, heal. We want to be comfortable, and we want to be associated with both branches of our nervous system. We want to play both ends. We take in the breath, we can energize ourselves, and when we exhale, we collapse into letting it go. So even sitting and watching yourself breathe, even sitting and participating with your butt on the chair, your feet on the ground, having nothing else going on but the breath. Just try that for a few breaths. And some people find closing their eyes, they are less stimulated by outside of ourselves. Just taking in a breath, best through the nose if you can. Breathing deep and just observing, noticing, feeling. And if there's a sense of tension or anxiety in your body, notice it. And perhaps send your breath to it. Let that anxiety or tension ride a wave of breath. Be fascinated with breathing alone. And then for some it's easy to, with heart math calls, add heart. It's like bringing your breath through your heart. Sometimes bringing a word like thank you. If you notice any other tension, just let it go. Recognizing that in this moment, while you're sitting here, there's nothing you need to do. There's nowhere you need to go. And really let yourself experience this moment. How it feels in your body. Your breath. And in doing this, you're changing what part of your brain you're using. You're cooling down the amygdala. All the horses are going, what's going on out there? Are you wondering?
And they're deep breathing.
Yeah.
You can do them all.
How did that feel? so simple. It's so simple, it's discounted. We try to, it has to be complicated. And when we're more relaxed, we have more perspective. I don't need to anticipate or work. Only a fool doesn't win his own fantasies. I'm gonna picture outcomes that I want. I'm gonna live in those outcomes, see how they feel, not the ones that I'm afraid of. So I wanted also, if there's anything specific somebody wants me to address, or Rebecca, if you have something specifically. This is a great article with options, how to offset the negative bias, the importance of it.
I guess maybe sometimes I see a student like is ready kind of for the next step,
Mm-hmm.
more at a faster gait or something, but because it's unknown, there can be a little bit of tension or hesitancy for that next step. So if you have any, I'm sure with surfing sometimes like at a certain level
yeah.
of waves you're comfortable, but then if
I'd see a wave and I'd say, we're not taking that one, right? You go start paddling.
Right, so if it's a bigger
Okay.
wave that you're not used to, or
Right.
faster speed that you haven't really experienced before, what would your mindset be like to
Well,
embrace
so
that?
is this like planned in the day that they're gonna be doing this?
You can,
Because that's part of it. If you've already imagined that transition, you're gonna have a lot easier time moving into it. Because if you've already imagined it with a positive experience of yourself and your horse, etc., you're gonna have already created some neurons that recognize, oh, this is what we're doing.
Gotcha.
Versus, unfortunately, if we have that negative bias, like, oh, every time I transition, it's bad, then we're gonna bring that to the experience. So, as it states in this article, it's practice. As I said, ideas can be exciting and inspirational, but if we don't do anything with it, if we don't practice. So, listening to longtime people that are working this process, they say, we just are undisciplined. It's really challenging to change our habits of how we think, what we do, just the way the day rolls, and to bring in something new, like just stopping. I love one teacher says when he's at a red light, he stops and breathes. He goes, hey, I get meditation in every day when I'm driving around. But yes, that would be something that would add a little more experience. Every time you get in your car, take a moment, sit, breathe. It becomes a very seductive experience because you start to really like feeling relaxed. And for a lot of people that I see, they've never felt relaxed. So, or maybe as a kid, they remember, or whatever. But when I used to work in this office where there were other people that were front desk, etc., they'd say, saw another one come out of your office today. They're walking along going, whoa. And it's not that I'm doing anything specifically, it's that they're doing something specifically. And that's what I love about what I do, because it's teaching a skill set that you can build. It's not something that I do to somebody. It's, here it is. You've got the feeling. You're recognizing what you can do. Practice. Make it a habit. Yes?
When I come in the gate, I've tried to figure out if it's my age, or sometimes I fear I don't have that many years left, so I want to do well. I want to ride well. I want to be a good equestrian. I want to do well. That overrides relaxing. I don't know why that is. Is there any way to either envelope that into what I'm doing, or maybe your advice would be, don't do that, but that is my overriding thing when I come up here. Of course, I'm like Deborah, I drive in and it's just, oh my God, I'm so lucky to be here. But when I park the car and get out, I wanna do well. I'm not out here, I don't feel like I'm just out here to look at how beautiful the green grass is and the trees, although it's a wonderful experience. It's more, I wanna get this sport and I wanna do it right.
So-
And I'm a little, I don't know, maybe that gets in my way a little bit.
It would, if you have an idea that I'm good, you know, this is what it's supposed to look like. So again, thinking about the golfers, they recognize, of course they want to do well. They want to do what they need to do out there because their bodies know how to do it. But also it becomes a personal, like when you say you don't have a lot of years or you feel that way
Yes, that's
sometimes.
what my brain does.
Yeah, that what do I value most? Do I value performance? Or do I value enjoying myself? Because literally what they found when we move into relaxing and enjoying ourselves, our performance goes up. When we anticipate, back to only a fool doesn't win in his own fantasies, when we anticipate, it's gotta look really good, you know, I wanna do really well today
Come
and
on,
stuff.
that's your
Yeah.
favorite word. Come on.
Is it really?
I was gonna give you a t-shirt. Come on. She's an excellent
This
equestrian.
makes me feel good to hear you say that, because when you made the mention of, what do you want, Claudia? Do you
Yeah.
want to, be relaxed and have a great time, or do you want to jump 6 feet? And
Yeah.
I just
Go home sweaty and
yeah,
tired.
I do that
and-
anyway. But I'm looking for a happy medium, because I want to always improve. I do know that when your thought process calms down, I know that I do better when I'm never nervous about writing. I'm nervous about doing well, doing the next right thing,
Ah,
getting on
yeah.
the horse. That nothing scares me. Scares
Lucky
a bad
you.
word. I'm not problemed by it at all. It's the performance and I want to keep going and I want to do better each day. And that might get in the way a little bit of me sitting and really taking it in. I'm not sure, but that's where I'm headed.
Well, I think part of what we all get to look at is, and particularly as we age, how do I want to experience myself in my life for whatever I have? Is it in a performance? Or is it a sense of well-being? Is it,
How do I master both?
you can master
Okay.
both. But part of it is not anticipating, so you have looking good, doing well looks like this.
Yes.
See, potentially doing well is, I had a heck of a good time, and I actually did.
Why can't I remember that one? That's perfect.
Yeah, it's like I bring that to this experience, because, one of the clients that I often see are brides-to-be. And I think this is pretty smart, brides-to-be. They say, you know what? I don't want to miss my wedding day. I don't want it to go by in a blur, and I never was present because I was so anxious or anticipatory or worried, and they want to really get themselves in a place of that I experienced this day. And that can be about any day. It can be about being out here. But again, we all have to decide our values. What's more important, my experience or my performance? And they do go together in terms of being stressed and tight and tension is not going to give you the game you want. So if you hold a standard of this is what it needs to look like, and they've even learned that with testing kids, like when they go, so they'll take a same class, randomly separate them. In one group, the teacher, the instructor, when he hands out the test says, do really well, give it your all, you know, make it happen, whatever. And then the other room, they say, just do your best. Just show up, give it what you have. You got this. And they perform so much better than the ones that feel they're being instructed to do it a certain way, that's the right way. So I don't know how that fits for you in terms
That
of.
makes sense. You're making sense to me.
And so-
I can do that.
So then it's the biggest thing, Claudia was your name, yeah?
Yes.
Is practice. How would I do that today? How would I enjoy myself and yet have an outcome I'm looking to have? So let me practice that shifting into a different gait, or let me practice how I want to be seated, or let me practice in my mind and feel comfortable instead of afraid. Because sometimes when we practice something that we're heading to, we get, yikes, you know, I don't really want to, I can't get comfortable with that. So pulling back, kind of the Joe Dispenza, until I get this, I'm not getting out of the car. Until I can breathe comfortably, I'm not going to get out of the car.
Next
So-
week, Rebecca's gonna come, we're all gonna be sitting in the car. She's gonna be like, I had a 9:30 and 10:30. Cars are here.
I had
She's gonna do thanks, Tina.
I had this client who was retired and he sold RVs on the weekends because he wanted to do it. It was something fun and he thought it was great. And his wife said, keep seeing Tina, you know, you're doing a great thing. So he was in his little office cube because nobody was out there and he was breathing. His boss came along and said, hey Al, what are you doing? He said, oh, I'm breathing. His boss said, breathe on your own time. And that is a lot of, you know, we are uncomfortable with being. We're human doers. We're not comfortable with just being. So to cultivate that ability to just be. Now, another story, I had a woman who works in LA. She was working in this, selling guitars or something, but a big company. And she brought her Respirate, which you know what that is, to her office because it was a very stressful environment. And she was in her office during her lunchtime doing this breathing exercise. And her boss came by and said, Lisa, what are you doing? She said, I'm doing some breathing with this thing. And he said, I've noticed you've been changing lately. What are you doing? And she said the funniest thing is he went out and bought one. And so now he's in his office doing the same thing. So it does become, you cultivate it and it starts to be a sweet place to go. And think about it, we're carrying around this potential portable paradise.
Mhm.
I mean, how lovely. And we don't even access it. We make our outer performance or what we're thinking more important than just, inner peace is my priority. That's how I want to be. That's my experience. Anyone else with a question specifically?
Words. Like,
Word?
yeah, because some of us sometimes, they're just, you know, we'll say, I can't do that, or I can't, you know, I always do this bad thing. But isn't there something about words, the power of words too?
Well, definitely.
Yeah.
We have association, it's that pinball going down. So if we associate, I can't do this, oh boy. You know, there's many quotes about, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. And so words like yes, and high five. I don't know if you guys have heard of Mel Robbins, but Mel Robbins has made this huge impact. She's a coach, but she was challenged with following through with things. She drank a lot. She had kids that were trying to live around her, drinking late at night. Her husband was taking care of everything. And she said one night late, she was watching the TV. She had had her bourbons and she was pretty relaxed. And she saw the firing of a rocket. So they watched 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, take off. And it took off. And she said, tomorrow I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna get up in the morning. That alarm goes off. I'm gonna launch myself like a rocket, which she did. And she went, oh my gosh, it worked. I am not any more uncomfortable than if I stayed in bed going, I should be up, I didn't get up. She has launched a huge set of books, videos about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I'm addressing what you're saying. She found out physiologically that our won't power, our can't power, starts creating all of this experience of we can't and we won't and it's not good. But if we don't give our brain a chance to go there, we just say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going. So let's say we don't want to go to the gym as an experience. Okay, so I should go to the gym. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I'm going. I'm not going to ask myself if I feel like it. I'm not going to put a lot of attention into, because if we start to ask ourselves if we feel like it, we can come up with all kinds of reasons why it's not going to work today and whatever it is. So she's fun to listen to because she's so real. And she has this 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. She wrote the first book, and then she's got a second one. Oh, her second one's high five. You get up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror, and you give yourself a high five. But all she's doing is really saying we can err on the side of, oh shit, I've got more wrinkles, excuse me. But, versus, wow, there you are. We're a winner. We got it. And there is that physiology that goes with high fives and dancing. And I got this going on. We have this option. To have dance around, to set our way of being in the day. That's where meditation in the morning can be an awesome thing. Meditation at night. Breathing even a few moments, paying attention to the breath. Did I answer what you're asking?
Yeah.
Anyone else? I have no idea what time it is.
Thank you so much. It's 12:30.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, I
Thank you
actually
so much.
spoke for an hour. That's astounding to me.
The horses are happy, they've just been listening. Just hanging their heads out.
No, they
just
actually,
listening.
I worked with this woman in her home. I did some work in Hawaii, and she had a cat, and when I walked in, the cat, took off. She goes, oh, the cat never comes out when there's people. So we started doing some breathing and relaxing, and I was monitoring her heart rhythm, and the cat came in and jumped up on her lap. And she said, this has never happened. But her cat just said, hey, it's safe out there. They know, animals know. And each other knows. So when we're setting positive, loving feelings toward people and situations and circumstances, it's felt, it's known.
What about when you do have positive feelings and all of that, and you try to generate it to your loved ones, but they don't seem to be able to accept it?
As in they are closed off to
Their
it?
behavior doesn't respond in a positive way.
Well, that's a multi-level question, because if,
Well, because if you love someone, you want them happy and you want them to, but you can also see where there's a flaw, you know, like, you know, at least I have a perfect family, but outside of that, on the other side, no, I'm really serious. I mean,
Yeah.
even with friends and things like that, it's like, you know, boy, you're in error right here, you know, I don't want you to do that, and you try to generate a positive thing for them, but they keep doing a negative. They're like stuck in the quicksand.
well, see, as I said, that's a multifaceted question, because part of sending a loving feeling to ourselves and to anyone is I love and accept you right where you are.
See, I think I do in spite of.
In spite of. So
Where
you
you
still have a judgment.
Exactly, I think, yes.
Yeah,
I
you're still, it's
think
not
so.
unconditional. It's,
Yeah.
if you really got what I'm doing, I'd see a difference in your behavior.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we gotta start first with learning to unconditionally. That also is like riding. If I ride good today, I feel good. If I accomplish it, if I show up and do a good job, and if not, I suck. Well, our performance has nothing to do with who we are. We're already loving, and the potential of that is incredible. Sometimes our performance is less than we want, and sometimes the people around us. But it's interesting, when I went and got my master's in counseling, this was an amazing first day. So I'm in this classroom. There's about 200 of us. Showing up, we all, we're here for that master's in psychology, right? We're all ready for it. And there was some, basic things that they mentioned, and then they said, we want you to break into have a counselor and you're a client. So 2 chairs, you face each other, sit down. One of you, if you've got a real issue, don't make something up, but if you've got something you're working with, you be the client, the other person will be the therapist. And we're all going, oh, we don't know anything. What are you doing? They said, you don't have to know anything. Just, again, do your best. The person's going to share whatever they share. My phone. Sorry, I'll just let that go unless it happens again. I was listening to getting here. So we're across from this person. We give it our best shot with what we can say. We have the client sharing what they have going on. And they said they'd give us 10 minutes, okay? So after 10 minutes, they said, okay, what we want to do is take the people that were the therapist in another room. We're going to give them some coaching, and then they'll come back and we'll go back to the same group. You'll still be the client if you were the client before. So off these people march. They come back after maybe 15, 20 minutes. We're all like, what could they have done in 15 to 20 minutes? But we're sitting there as the client, and the person sits down across from us, and they say, begin. You got 10 minutes, carry on, wherever you were. So after 10 minutes, there's this sense of change in the room. And then after they say, okay, we're done, the instructors said, did you notice anything different that happened with the counseling session? Clients are raising their hand. What did you do? I mean, my therapist was so much better, and they had the best ideas, and blah, 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 blah. What they did is they told the person, when you sat down in front of them, to see them having all the resources within them that they need to deal with whatever they're dealing with. Just keep holding that vision. And that's what woke up in the people. So we have that. And we have that with each other. So our loving can be, as long as somebody's not hurting us, I don't know what your process is supposed to be on the planet right now. perhaps I don't want you doing it in my kitchen or whatever, but, or in my house, or however you do it, having appropriate boundaries. But the other is they're doing what they need to do. And if we're really in a loving place, we can allow for that, we just send our loving. It's gonna be to greater advantage than our judgment. And if we have a habit of judging others, we're very likely having a habit of judging ourselves.
Yes.
So we have a standard, and we too often can feel we fall short. But anyone else?
Well, maybe on the idea of boundaries.
Uh-huh.
If you are unconditionally loving and everything, but then the energy that you're getting back, even if it's not even harmful, but if they're going through something, and then that makes you sick because you're so upset about what the other person's going through. So how do you set up healthy boundaries?
Well, so again, if the other person having all the resources, also, it's not really our
Giving
process.
them
Yes, and it's not our,
Respect,
they have to recognize it. And see, we don't want to disempower somebody.
right.
You know, I've raised 2 daughters, and my challenge was not to feel like I knew more than they needed. You know, I mean, of course, boundaries. You're not going to that party where they're doing drugs, you know, that kind of thing. But I also gave them a lot of sense of, you're smart, you know what you need to do. And to trust a person that you're working with, as long as it's not abusing you. But we can abuse ourselves with concern for somebody else's process. Oh, wow, I just took on their stuff.
Right, but if it's that they're in pain,
Yeah, that's hard, no doubt about it. Compassion, understanding, but that's definitely hard. And you can say, what can I do? How can I help? But you can't take it on. You can't,
right?
you know, because then you're disabled too. You know, what do they say? Put the mask on you first, and you know, you gotta remember those things.
Putting that in my head.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, speaking of disabled, I have to run.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Tina.
This is so
for
great.
coming.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you, Tina.
And read the article and do it.
I will do, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
I get to meet some horses.
Yes, you got the ally.
Oh, yeah.